The movie introduces us to Veronica, a young woman who is looking to start a new chapter in her life. She is currently unemployed and seeking work. She meets with a man named Charles, who is looking for a live-in caregiver for his elderly mother. The job seems simple enough. Live in the house, provide companionship, and help with daily tasks. Charles seems polite and professional, so Veronica accepts the offer without hesitation. After agreeing to the terms, Charles drives Veronica to his mother's home. The drive takes them away from the city and into a more secluded, quiet area. As they pull up to the house, the atmosphere shifts slightly. Upon arrival, Veronica encounters the first sign that something is off. As she gets out of the car, she notices the gardener working in the yard. He stares at her with an intensity that is unsettling, a look filled with anxiety and warning. He is so distracted by staring at her that he accidentally cuts his own hand with the gardening shears. Veronica is creeped out, but Charles quickly distracts her, ushering her inside. Once inside, Veronica tries to shake off the weird encounter. She explores the house, trying to get a feel for her new environment. The interior is old-fashioned and quiet. As she walks through the hallway, she notices a family photo on the wall. The faces of the family members have been scratched out or erased. Before she can dwell on it, Charles introduces her to his mother, Mrs. Bloom. The Bloom family welcomes Veronica warmly. They sit down for lunch together. Mrs. Bloom seems like a sweet, frail old lady. She asks Veronica questions about her life, her background, and her family. Veronica answers politely, trying to build a rapport. They share stories, and for a moment, everything feels normal. After lunch, Veronica takes a moment to herself. She uses the house telephone to send a voice message to her mother, updating her on the new job. While she is standing in the hallway, she glances into a room across the hall. What she sees makes her freeze. In the room, there is a medical bed, and hanging above it is a blood bag. It looks like a makeshift hospital room. Suspicion begins to creep into her mind, so she moves toward the room to investigate, but Charles appears. He stares at her intensely, distracting her again. Veronica, not wanting to be rude on her first day, decides to ignore her instincts. She goes to Mrs. Bloom's room to begin her duties. While they are talking, Mrs. Bloom gives her a gift, a letter. It's a strange gesture, but Veronica accepts it. Shortly after, Mrs. Bloom shows Veronica to her bedroom, tells her that her work will officially begin the next morning. Veronica settles into her room. She goes through her nightly routine and falls asleep. However, she is not alone. While she sleeps, a figure stands silently by her bedside, watching her. It is a woman, Mrs. Bloom's granddaughter, but Veronica sleeps through the intrusion, unaware of the eyes on her. The next morning, Veronica decides to talk to the strange gardener again. She approaches him, trying to be friendly. The man, whose name is Joe, is reluctant to speak. He seems afraid. When Veronica presses him, Joe suddenly says her name. Veronica is shocked. "How do you know my name?" she asks. Joe reveals he has known her name for a long time. He drops a terrifying hint. He tells her that strange things happen in this house, and that he refuses to ever go inside. He warns her that if he were her, he wouldn't stay long. He mentions that there have been other girls before her. Disturbed by this warning, Veronica goes back inside. As she enters, Joe looks up at the house window. He sees Charles staring down at him with a cold, menacing look. Terrified, Joe packs his tools and leaves the property immediately. Veronica is now on edge, Joe's words echoing in her mind. She finds Mrs. Bloom in a state of confusion. The old woman is packing her clothes into a suitcase. Veronica asks, "Do you know where you are?" Mrs. Bloom replies that she is at university and is packing to go back to her parents' house. Veronica tries to gently correct her, saying, "You are at home." But Mrs. Bloom insists she is leaving. Suddenly, Mrs. Bloom's demeanor changes. She looks terrified, staring at an empty doorway. She claims she sees a man laughing at her and screams at Veronica to make him leave. Veronica looks, but there is no one there. She assumes Mrs. Bloom is suffering from dementia or hallucinations and tries to comfort her. However, Mrs. Bloom isn't hallucinating entirely. There's actually a man outside the house, watching them through the window. Veronica returns to her room to decompress. There, she meets a young woman who introduces herself as Emily, Mrs. Bloom's granddaughter. Emily says she is just checking on her grandmother. She asks if everything is going well. Before leaving, Emily makes a strange comment. "I like your dress, Veronica." Veronica is startled again. "How do you know my name?" he asks, but Emily doesn't answer. She simply smiles and closes the door, locking Veronica in with her growing fear. Begins that afternoon. Veronica goes for a walk around the property to clear her head. She sees a woman in a white dress walking in the distance. The woman looks to be about Mrs. Bloom's age. Suddenly, the woman turns and sprints toward Veronica with unnatural speed. Terrified, Veronica runs back into the house and locks the door. She'll go to the bathroom, brushing her teeth to calm her mind. And she opens the medicine cabinet and takes a sedative to calm her nerves. But when she closes the cabinet mirror, she sees the reflection of the woman from outside standing right behind her. She spins around, but the room is empty. Just then, a bell rings. It is Mrs. Bloom summoning her. When Veronica arrives, Mrs. Bloom is angry. She scolds Veronica for not being by her side constantly. She threatens to fire her if she wanders off again. That night, after everyone is asleep, Veronica creeps downstairs to use the telephone to call her mother. As she dials, she hears a phone ringing inside the house. She looks out the window and sees Charles standing in the yard. He is holding her mother's phone, waving it at her with a mocking smile. Veronica realizes she is trapped. She rushes back to her room, locks the door, and shuts the curtains. Hiding under the covers in terror, the next morning at breakfast, Mrs. Bloom notices Veronica looks unwell. "Are you okay?" she asks. Veronica admits she feels exhausted. She rolls up her sleeves to show strange bruises that have appeared on her arms overnight. Mrs. Bloom dismisses it, suggesting Veronica hurt herself without knowing. Veronica then mentions her missing phone and accuses Charles of having it. Mrs. Bloom gets defensive and angry, insisting the phone is just lost and snapping at Veronica. The blood ritual that evening. While cleaning the kitchen, Veronica hears the sound of a girl singing and coughing coming from behind a locked door. She investigates, following the sound upstairs. But the noise stops. She goes to Mrs. Bloom's room and tries to ask about previous caregivers. Mrs. Bloom is evasive, saying they only stayed for a short time because this house isn't for everyone. That night, the true horror is revealed to the audience. While Veronica sleeps, Mrs. Bloom and Charles enter her room. They use a syringe to drain blood from Veronica's arm. This explains her exhaustion and the bruises. They take the blood outside to a ritualistic basin in the garden. Charles mixes Veronica's blood with water and rose petals. It is a dark ceremony of youth theft. The next day, Veronica feels even worse. The bruises on her arms are fading, but she feels weaker. She tells Mrs. Bloom she feels like something is in her room at night. Mrs. Bloom gaslights her, telling her it's just bad dreams. She gives Veronica a bowl of soup, claiming it will help with the bruising and nausea. Hearing noises again, Veronica goes to investigate a specific room upstairs. This time, Mrs. Bloom doesn't stop her. Veronica enters and finds a bedroom. Lying on the bed is a dress identical to the one Veronica is wearing. Confused, she asks Mrs. Bloom about it. Mrs. Bloom reveals that this was Emily's room. She told her that Emily is dead. She died of tuberculosis years ago. Veronica is horrified. She tells Mrs. Bloom that she spoke to Emily just yesterday. Mrs. Bloom insists that is impossible. Veronica realizes she is losing her grip on reality, or being played in a sick game. She decides to leave. She runs to the front door and bursts outside. But as soon as she steps into the fresh air, her body fails her. She can't breathe. Her legs give out, and she collapses. Unconscious on the lawn, she wakes up back in her bed, with Mrs. Bloom watching over her. Veronica begs to see Charles. She calls him and pleads to go home, saying she is sick. Charles, cold and dismissive, tells her he will take her home tomorrow morning. That night at dinner, Mrs. Bloom acts innocent, but she has drugged Veronica's food. She stalls, waiting for the sedatives to kick in. Veronica passes out at the table. Mrs. Bloom sits there all night, listening to music calmly. Veronica wakes up the next morning. Her memory of the previous day is foggy. Her head is pounding. She has forgotten she was supposed to leave. She goes about her chores like a zombie. While cleaning, she sees a bloody hand appear on the window glass. She looks outside but sees no one. She wanders into Mrs. Bloom's study and finds a notebook. Flipping through it, she sees her own name written on the last page. Before she can process this, the bell rings. She puts the book back and obeys the summons. That night, the phone rings. Veronica answers it. A voice on the other end says, "It is Emily." Veronica is terrified, thinking it's a ghost. She hangs up. The phone rings again. This time, it's her mother. Her mother sounds confused, asking why Veronica is calling her from a strange number and talking nonsense. Veronica realizes she is losing time and memories. She sneaks into Emily's room again. While reading a strange book by the window, she sees a shadow move. And after that, Charles appears behind her. He asks, "Are you ready?" Veronica goes to the bathroom to wash up. She looks in the mirror, but she sees her hair is turning gray. Her skin looks older. She is aging rapidly. After preparing everything for leaving, Charles stops her. He tells her today is grocery day and payday. He acts as if the conversation about her leaving never happened. When Veronica insists she quit yesterday, Charles gaslights her, saying the conversation never took place. He convinces her to stay one more day. That night, Veronica is sleepless. She sits on her bed. Suddenly, she feels something wet on her foot. She looks under the bed and sees a dead body. She screams. Charles rushes in. She yells, "You killed them." Charles looks under the bed. There is nothing there. He tells her she is hallucinating and forces her to go back to sleep. The next day, Veronica is at her breaking point. Mrs. Bloom tries to give her tea, but Veronica refuses. She tells the old woman she is leaving immediately. Mrs. Bloom laughs a cruel, mocking laugh and tells Veronica she can't leave. Veronica asks why she is aging so fast. Mrs. Bloom just laughs harder. So, Veronica got angry and slaps Mrs. Bloom across the face and runs to her room. The next morning, Charles is furious. He scolds Veronica for hitting his mother. Veronica, terrified of the police or worse, apologizes and promises it won't happen again. Charles uses this guilt to trap her. He tells her she has to stay for another month as punishment. Broken and afraid, Veronica agrees. Days pass. Veronica continues to care for Mrs. Bloom, but she notices something odd. Mrs. Bloom is packing her bags. Veronica doesn't understand why. One afternoon, Veronica wakes up from a nap and overhears Charles and Mrs. Bloom talking downstairs. She listens against the wall. Later, during lunch, while she and Mistress Bloom are talking each other, a miracle happens, or a curse. Mrs. Bloom stands up from her wheelchair. She tells Veronica, "You are very special to me." Veronica realizes she is in mortal danger. She runs for the door. She makes it outside, but her body is failing. She is now an old woman in a young woman's skin. She collapses on the grass, too weak to move. She wakes up tied to a Mrs. Bloom's wheelchair. Emily and Charles stand guard. Mrs. Bloom walks toward her. Looking younger and stronger, Mrs. Bloom reveals the truth. She was once just like Veronica, a caregiver brought to this house. The owner of the house made a deal with a demon or a dark entity to save his dying daughter. The deal requires an exchange. The owner extends his life and the life of his family by stealing the youth and souls of other women. "Now it's your turn," Mrs. Bloom says. After that, Mystery Bloom sit in the basin. Charles lowered her into the basin filled with water and Veronica's blood. Charles recites a dark prayer, like a baptism. When they pull Mistress Bloom up, the transfer is complete. Mrs. Bloom transforms. She sheds her old age and returns to her youthful, beautiful self. She cries tears of joy. She is finally free. She packs her bags dressed in beautiful clothes and prepares to leave the house. She walks past Veronica. Veronica is now an ancient, withered old woman, trapped in the wheelchair, unable to speak or move. The new Mrs. Bloom says goodbye and leaves to live her life. The movie ends with Veronica sitting alone in the house. She is now the grandmother. She must wait there, trapped in this aged body until the next victim arrives to take her place. The cycle continues. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy this recap, please keep in touch. See you in next movie.